Hello? Okay. So, good morning. Thank you so much for waiting so much time. We are happy to be here to share our work with you. This is vulnerability and exploitation. We name it as Ghost Telephonist. It's about a problem in CS4 in the LTE network. So let me firstly give a brief self-introduction. Okay, we come from the 360 technology. 360 is a leading internet security company in China, and like McAfee and Symantec. And our core products are antivirus security software for personal computers and cell phones. For us, we come from the Unicorn team. This team is one research group in 360, and this team was built in 2014. We focus on the security issues in many kinds of wireless systems, wireless telecommunication systems. And our previous works include GPS spoofing in DEFCON 23, the year before last year, okay, and LTE redirection attack in DEFCON 24, and also the PLC attack in Black Hat in last year. So in this year, we bring the work about the vulnerability in 4G LTE in the CS4 procedure. Okay, so what is CS4? Now let me briefly introduce the voice solutions in LTE network. As we all know, different from the 2G and 3G, in LTE network, the circuit switch was removed, and only packet switch is left. So now there are mainly three solutions for voice in LTE. The first one is VoLTE, voice over IP. This is the final objective for the network evolution. And the second solution is the case we discussed today, the CS4 circuit switched for back. It means when subscriber takes voice call, the cell phone has to switch from the 4G to 2G or 3G. The third solution is simultaneous voice and LTE. The cell phone keeps two connections simultaneously. One is in 4G and the other is in 3G or 2G. This solution has higher price and more rapid power consumption on the terminal because it has two baseband chipsets running. At the beginning of this year, we were working on a project about the well-known GSM man-in-the-middle attack, and were debugging some modifications on Osmocom BB. This is a very famous project for GSM protocol. We tried to send fake paging response, and then we were surprised to find some fake paging response messages were accepted by the network. There is no authentication, and the core was successfully built. We think it's quite strange, so we started to have a deep look into it. See the two pictures. This is the signaling log on some engineering mode cell phone. In the part of the red blocks, you can see the left figure. We confirmed that in the normal 2G core, authentication does exist for every core. you can see here as core confirmed. Here is the authenticate. Oh, sorry. This figure is the authentication request and the response. So in normal 2G core, we find AKA does exist for every core. But in the 4G network, in the CSFB case, the network doesn't require authentication. We found this may be the root of this problem. It was introduced by the CSFB procedure. This slide shows the signaling flow of CSFB mobile terminated core procedure. You can see some network elements here. MME for 4G LTE network, and MSC for 2G and 3G network. Okay, when there is a core for a UE, for one user terminal, the network firstly sends paging response on the 4G network from MME to UE. And the 4G node B sends RRC connection release message here. In this message, the network tells the UE which 2G base station it should connect. In this step, there is another vulnerability we presented in last year, that is the LTE redirection attack. This problem is still under discussion in standardization groups, and it hasn't been solved until now. When the UE falls back to 2G, it will send paging response directly from the UE to MSC. Okay, and from this step to the core setup, okay, there's no authentication. So the whole principle is like, the network has different doors. For example, the left one is the door for LTE, and the right one is the door for GSM. So no matter which door the subscriber wants to enter, the door requires the subscriber to show the badge of this door. And once the badge passes the check, the subscriber enters the network space. And now there's one exception. When subscriber goes out from the door of the LTE, he shouts, "Be quick, I have a core in GSM." So in this urgent case, in this special case, the door of GSM does not check his badge. Okay, so after the discovery of this problem, we started to think about how to exploit it. The direct idea is to send fake paging response and then impersonate the victim's cell phone and hijack its link. This picture shows our experiment setting. We use the C118 cell phone where Osmocom BB layer 1 is running. And the C118 is connected to a laptop which runs Osmocom BB layer 2 and 3. In this picture, we used two C118 cell phones to improve the attack efficiency. Now let's watch a demo video to know how the attack looks like, and then we explain the tactical details. This video records the whole attack procedure. Okay. We use two cell phones. One is the victim cell phone. And use, whoa. So firstly, we check the two cell phones work in the normal mode. We firstly use the victim cell phone calls a normal cell phone. Okay, so both of them works normally. Wow. Okay, so during the two cores, we captured the TMSI of the victim cell phone. And we start the attack. We set the TMSI on this MacBook. Attack this TMSI. This is the victim cell phone's TMSI. So now we call the victim cell phone again. Now the core is connected, but the victim cell phone hasn't response. The core is connected to the telephonist. Next, we open the Gmail Google account webpage. We try to reset this account's password by entering the cell phone number, and the Google account will send a verification short message to the cell phone. The telephonist receives this verification short message. Now we import the verification code. Okay, now we can reset the password. Now we create a new password. Sign in. Okay, done. This is my Gmail account. Okay, this video was recorded in March in this year. And in this month, July, we noticed that Google announced its new two-factor authentication scheme. The new scheme delivers the verification code through Google's special application on Android cell phones. So maybe this attack does not work to Google now. Okay. Okay, so let my colleague Yuwue to introduce more technical details.
Good morning, I'm Yuwue. Now let me introduce the first exploitation, the Telephonist 1. The attacker, we name it as Ghost Telephonist, can impersonate the victim cell phone to receive the call. The attack steps in our experiment are listed here. The first step is listing the PCH, the paging channel, and secondly, extract the TMC or IMC in the paging messages. The third step is the case step, forging a paging response message. with the captured Timothy or Impersonates. After this step, we check whether the network accepts the paging response. If it accepts, it will enter the call setup procedure. If not, we will wait for the next paging message. So in this attack, we pick up victim randomly. So we call this method as random hijack. In the random hijack exploitation, the attacker listens on the 2G paging channel, extracts Timothy from the paging request, and then forge and send the paging response constantly. However, the network standard said the 4G network should send paging requests with S-Timothy, and the S-Timothy has no relation with the 2G Timothy. So someone may ask, why would the network send paging requests on 2G side with the standard said it should send paging on the 4G side? I don't know either, but in fact, we found that the C118 also receive CS fallback paging requests on 2G side. So my guess is the operators configured the network to do so in order to optimize the network to decrease the latency or setting up a voice call. Here is the success example. You can see the C118 has no SIM card, but after a fake paging response, we successfully received a call from the number 139 blah, blah, blah. This slide explains the attack signaling. In this figure, UE-V represents the victim, UE-F represents the attacker. When there is an incoming call for the victim, the MSC in 2G network will request the MME in 4G network to transmit paging request. When the victim receives the paging request, it will send to EMB an extended service request to ask for a CS fallback to accept the incoming call in 2G. In the normal scenario, after fallback, the victim will send the paging response to establish a connection. But in this attacking scenario, because the attacker is constantly sending paging response with the victim's Timothy number, so the call is taken over by the attacker. Once the telephonist hijacked an incoming call, what can he do in further? The caller will recognize the caller's voice is abnormal, but the attacker may do something like social engineering. For example, he may say, your friend encountered an accident. He is in the hospital. He needs $2,000 for the rescue costs. In this scenario, it may generate serious consequences. Anyway, Now the attacker only knows the victim's team-C or IM-C. He don't know who is the victim, and he don't know further information. In order to do further attack, can we know the victim's cell phone number? See this picture. We found during one hijacked call, the telephonist can make a call out to a burner phone by sending CM service request message. And the surprise is this doesn't trigger an authentication either. The network will directly respond that CM service accept. By this way, we can see the victim's phone number on the screen to this burner phone. We call it as phone number catcher. Here we summarize the attack steps by showing this signaling flow. Telephonist gets the control from here. It sends paging response. Then the network sends back setup. And the call is confirmed. After the call is hijacked, the telephonist makes a call out by sending holding message and then CM service request. We can see the network side sends back a setup message. It doesn't require authentication. This picture shows the pickup records. Here are the records captured by Washak on laptop that Awesome is running on. You can see they hold the message to the end of this call. The network does not require authentication. As long as the telephonist doesn't hang up the call, the connection will be maintained. And at the same time, short message can be received or transmitted. We try to make a targeted attack to attack a test phone, which gives us the ability to debug and log the signaling. After our investigation, we found two ways to implement a targeted persistent hijack. First, we can send the paging response back constantly using the test phone team-C or IM-C, which we can get easily, no matter whether there is a paging request or not. Or we could use the ISDN number, also known as cell phone number. In this case, we know the victim's phone number. We can call the victim and capture the victim's team-C in the air. Then we can launch a targeted attack via previous mentioned attack method. Now let's go on to the next slide and introduce the details about how to implement a targeted hijack. Firstly, we can use team-C to attack the victim as we discussed. With this attacking method, we could constantly send in paging response to the network using the victim's team-C. Once there is a call to the victim, the call procedure will set up. We can directly take over this procedure because we can respond to paging request quicker than the victim. That also means we successfully perform a targeted attack. Secondly, implementing targeted attack with IMSI basically requires the same steps as using TMC. But this method has some potential disadvantages. The success rate is much lower than using TMC. Because when the network side receives paging requests with IMSI, it needs time to look up the corresponding TMC in the network. Thus, because the thus increase the link setup latency. But the victim will directly send legal paging response with TMC and set up the link quicker than us, while the network is still looking up TMC with our IMSI. Finally, when we have the victim's phone number, we can attack the victim in the following way. We need two C118 and one bandit phone, as shown in this figure. Here is the steps. Firstly, we set up one C118 as a sniffer. Then we use the bandit phone to call the victim and trigger a regular CS fallback procedure. Our sniffer will log the whole procedure, including paging response, call setup, etc. Please notice the call setup signaling contains caller's phone number. That means we can locate the specific call setup signaling and trace back to find the corresponding paging response, and finally extract the victim's TMC. Now we have our victim's TMC, so we can follow the steps we mentioned before to hijack the victim. Now let's watch the demo video. This video shows the targeted attack. We impersonate one victim phone. And furthermore, we can hijack its short message, and we can choose which message the victim can receive. First, we use two phones to call each other to verify the phone number. Then we start a count to see how much time it makes to mount the attack. We start a counter to see how much time it takes to mount the attack. Now, we call the victim. But the call have been hijacked. So now we have successfully hijacked the voice call. Let's go on to attack short messaging. So we can successfully hijack short message, and furthermore, we can choose which short message the victim can receive. So now, welcome my team member, Ling, to introduce a more complex attack.
Sorry for the bad video vision. Well, let me continue to explain the first demo video showed the whole procedure. Okay. This is about how to attack the internet accounts, and we know that to simplify the user experience, many internet applications permits login with cell phone number and verification passwords, right? Verification short messages. Okay, it doesn't require importing the login password. So if attacker obtains the victim's cell phone number and verification short messages, he can impersonate the victim to access the application. Another attack path is using the verification short message to reset the password, as we shown in the first demo video. As we all know, there are some existing exploitations which can obtain the verification short messages, like the attack we showed here. For example, SS7 vulnerability can utilize to hijack both core or short messages, and also some malwares on the cell phones which can hijack the short messages content. So Telephonist attack is just a new attack method to generate the same consequence. We verify this kind of attack, the password reset, on some of the internet applications, for example, Facebook and Google account, etc. The steps are illustrated here. In first step, we control the victim's link and get the phone number. And in step 2 here, we use a computer open the web page and request to reset the password with the acquired phone number. In the step 3 here, the telephonist receives the verification short messages. And finally, in the step 4, we use this verification code to reset the login password. This picture is the screenshot of the C118's log. The record in the red rectangle proves that the C118 received the verification short messages sent from network. It says CP data network to MS. We investigated the password reset routine of many popular websites and applications, including global and Chinese ones. This table summarized some of them: Facebook, Google account, WhatsApp, and in China there are Alipay, WeChat, Didi and Sina, etc. Some of them require sending short message from internet to cell phone, the inbound ones. And some of them require sending short message from cell phone to internet, the outbound ones. Well, Now, you may think, oh, this vulnerability is so dangerous, but we want to emphasize that don't worry so much. There are some constraints. Okay, in this page we summarize the constraints to launch the attack. Firstly, the telephonist and the victim's cell phone should be in the same paging area. It may be several base stations coverage. And secondly, the attack is feasible only when 2G network is in use and uses A51 or A50 encryption. I want to say here, 2G network is in use. That means even the CS fallback makes the cell phone fall back to 3G. Okay. As long as 2G network is in use, the attack is feasible. Okay. And compared with other known exploitations, Telephonist attack has these features. It doesn't need to access the SS7 core network, and this attack doesn't need fake base station, so it's quite easy to launch. The victim keeps online in 4G network and is not aware of this attack, as the pictures shown here. People may also question that why in every experiment you make a call to the victim to trigger the CS fallback. Is this necessary for a successful hijack? The answer is no. It depends on the operator's configuration. In some cases, we found we can directly impersonate the victim's cell phone to make a mobile originated call. During our tests, we noticed that we got different successful results when we attacked different victim cell phones. Here lists the 5 cell phones we tested. With different chipsets, it is strange that some of them, which we marked with a star in the table, will get back its control to the connection. And after 10 seconds of our successful hijack. This means our attack is failed in this case. So what's the problem? Why does such kind of failure exist? Why do different cell phones have different behavior? Here we want to, after we tested and analyzed, the major reason we found causing this issue is the fast return procedure. The chipset manufacturers implement fast return in different ways. When a victim cell phone received a paging message, but it didn't receive this call, it may launch a location area update procedure in 2G. And this action will finally lead to the interruption of our hijack link. Here we show 2 cases. The first one is about Qualcomm chipset. In this figure, the green texts are 4G signaling and the white texts are 2G signaling. You can see that Qualcomm chipset sends location update request here. But there is no location update accept following. So we doubt whether the chipset really complete the location update request procedure. So in this case, the attack will be succeed because the LAU procedure is not complete. So we can maintain the connection to do something evil. Here's the failure example. We can see the difference. This is a case of MTK chipset. When the cell phone fell back to 2G, it didn't get its core. But before returning to 4G, the signaling was sent out. There is a location update accept immediately following. So in this case, our victim will get a new TMC. That's why the connection will be interrupted 10 seconds after being successfully hijacked. Okay, does this mean the chipset we marked as star are all immune to this attack? No, for such chipset issue, we can use the jamming to prevent the victim cell from sending LAU signaling to the network. Then we could maintain this hijack link. Okay, we proposed countermeasures to operators and internet providers. We suggest to add the CS for back authentication in the CS for back procedure. The additional latency is acceptable, and we think the final solution is to speed up the VoLTE deployment. And for the internet service provider, and it should be careful that the PSTN authentication is not safe, and IST guidance already suggested that not use PSTN in two-factor authentication. Well, finally, I want to thanks to GSMA CVD program. This is a new program launched in this year. This is a program for researchers to report the vulnerability related to standard and protocols. So before this program, we have no good platform to report such vulnerabilities. So we reported this problem to GSMA, and we received the first acknowledgement on the Mobile Security Research Hall of Fame. GSMA also transferred this vulnerability information to every operators, and we know some related operators are already fixed or fixing this problem. Well, that's all. Thank you all for your attention.